from the early days of its launch in 1998 to its completion in 2011, the ISS has been a source of marvel and wonder for many of those that believe it's actually real and that it's orbiting around us at impossible speeds of 17,000 miles per hour. While at the same time, it's become a source of humor and comedy and disbelief for those that don't believe it's real and that it's next to impossible to be orbiting around us at these impossible speeds. Now, the reason for people having the disbelief in the ISS is valid. We have, you know, footage of it being filmed in a mock-up swimming pool. We also have much evidence of layering effects and visual effects with these alleged spacewalks and these alleged live streams from these astronauts and on board the ISS. We've also came across many other discrepancies as far as issues with the quote-unquote live stream that NASA airs of the ISS. And we've also came across augmented reality effects where certain objects just appear on the screen and people are trying to grab and hold on to objects that aren't even there because of the augmented reality from what they're viewing from their augmented reality contact lenses. And we've come across many different issues with comments that were said on the ISS where they're filming. We've also seen where they've been caught in harnesses. So there's a lot of valid reasons for people not to believe the ISS is real. So we're going to kind of take a look at some of these discrepancies today, but we're also going to take a closer look at what people are actually viewing from their telescopes and see if that is indeed the ISS that they're actually observing with a telescope. We're going to take a closer look at that and some of the technology that's out there that could be proving otherwise that they're not actually observing a ISS spacecraft. So with that being said, let's go ahead and look at some of these discrepancies with these live streams of the alleged ISS.
Hey everybody, it's Sean Hilbler from Hill Productions. I was watching the ISS quote-unquote live, and check this out. Pay attention, right in this area. I mean, for the love of God, if you guys still think this shit's real, just unfollow me. Hope everybody's doing well and having a great day. As you guys know, we've been following the ISS live feed, and every once in a while we'll get these lines that people send in, and we take a look at the video footage and the lines that seem to be showing up in the atmosphere above the Earth, spanning for what appear to be hundreds, if not thousands of miles above the Atlantic Ocean, the Pacific Ocean. This was observed from out above the Arabian Sea. This video footage was sent in by Jennifer Ramos from just a few days ago. Now we're looking at that line that appears to be above India. But if you look real close, it doesn't line up perfect. And as you're going to see in some other photos that were sent in, still images, a lot of these lines where they meet don't line up perfectly. And here's a prime example. Looking at the line right here, stopping in this location, there's a pocket of blue on the left, and abruptly it turns white. You know, in a real sky, that would be impossible. That doesn't happen. So I'm going to show you guys some more examples of what appear to be lines spanning across the Earth. Look right here. Here's a couple of the lines that show up in these ISS live feeds, and they've been showing up for several months. I don't recall seeing these years back. This is something that at least it's new to me. I've had people share these recently within the last, I would say, 12 months. I've had several viewers send in photos and videos. Here's another example of the abrupt change. See the white, how it abruptly stops, and then you have blue, what appears to be ocean. That doesn't necessarily happen in a real sky where there's real wind and real clouds colliding with warm air and cold air. That would be kind of difficult to do, stop like that abruptly in the jet stream or something like that. That just simply couldn't happen. This segment here was sent in by Daniel Kane of something showing up in the sky off in the distance. I don't believe this is Jupiter or Venus, because right now the position of Jupiter and Venus is in front of the sun and behind the sun. Traveling across the sky, Jupiter is behind the sun, Venus is in front of the sun. Not sure what those were, but good observation by Daniel. Like this video footage here you're looking at from the ISS live cam, what appears to be a version of one of the Starlink satellite trains. But as you guys well know that have seen these things, don't they look big? Look how big those things look. I mean, I suppose that's the most logical explanation for what we're looking at here. I don't know how else to describe them. It looks exactly like a Starlink satellite train. Starlink satellites don't normally look this big, at least from the ground. But I'm beginning to wonder what's really going on up here to begin with, and I'm going to show you guys why. And it was actually kind of disappointing. I wonder if they're trying to hide something. It's just kind of weird. Again, we've been looking at these mysterious lines in the ISS live feed for several months. And I'll tell you what I think we're looking at here. This looks like a classic stitched together map. I was over here at zoom.earth, and this is a flat view of the entire Earth, right? Well, you can't take a photo of the entire Earth, so you have to take segments of the Earth and stitch them together. And whenever this technique is used, and anytime you're making a map of the entire Earth, it's going to have this type of digital stitching. And here's another example, like we just saw from the International Space Station, how the blue starts and the white abruptly begins. That wouldn't happen in a real atmosphere. That would be impossible. So this is over at zoom.earth. This is today, and you can see the map is clearly stitched together. And look at the familiar lines. Don't they look similar to what we're seeing up here from the International Space Station? Look, they're identical. So that brings up the question, what are they doing up there? Are they trying to hide something? This is clearly a fake, guys. If this is indeed out over the Atlantic Ocean, that's a stitched together map, just like you see right here on zoom.earth. In fact, this is supposedly the North Pacific Ocean. Let's just go to the North Pacific Ocean, and I'll show you the same stitching. We're down here in the South Atlantic, going across South America, going out into the Pacific Ocean. It's dark. We're going to have to go to, there we go, daylight. Here's the North Pacific Ocean. And here's the familiar line. There's not only one, but there's two. Another one over here out in the North Pacific Ocean. Going back to the International Space Station, here's the North Pacific Ocean right here. And there's the familiar line. See it? This is a map. This is a fake. So there you have it, the mystery solved. We've been looking at these lines for several months out here, supposedly in the atmosphere above the Earth, and all along it's been a stitched together map, just like you see over here at zoom.earth. And you can find other examples like over here at Null School. There's an example of how you would take apart the Earth whenever you're looking at different areas of the Earth, different hemispheres and different quadrants of the Earth. And then when you put it back together, it makes a flat map. But there's always that stitching, even as good as Google Earth is, and Google Earth is excellent. You can still see the lines down here because they're putting together a map of the entire Earth. So they have to have stitching and overlay somewhere, especially at the bottom and the top. Let's just go look. I haven't even, yep, there you go. There's your line at the top of the Earth. So whatever's going on up here, this is not a live cam. This is fake. This is a stitched together map of the Earth. Whatever they're flying over is not the Earth.
China. Let's look at China's. This is supposedly China spacewalk. Wow. Oh man. Hey, what are you doing? Oh, hey. Look how flat that is. Oh, look, the Earth's concave. Oh, look, the Earth's flat again. Oh, it's flat again. Oh, what is that? That is clearly fake. Oh, it's flat again. Look how fake that is. So people won't defend like Japan and China. They don't like to talk about it. Look how incredibly bad it is. So do you think they're all faking it? Yeah, of course they are. And there are many different ways that could happen, right? It could be like, well, they think America's really doing it and they're faking it, or they know America's faking it, but they don't want to call them out because they could start some type of issue, or they want to also lie to their people, or there's literally just kind of an unspoken agreement at the top levels, right? That's like, okay, we're just going to kind of fake space for our own populations. Like, well, why would one mob tell on the other mob? Like, you might have gang wars, but none of the gangs are going to go snitch to the police, even if you believe that they're these enemies. And of course, we've seen immense international cooperation, like how they all shut the world down at the same time, right? So anyway, I just thought that was so funny, bro. Like, do you think all of them are faking? Have you ever watched the other people that you're like defending the legitimacy of right now? Their videos are so bad. Look at that horizon.
Now, obviously, we've come across a lot of issues with these alleged spacewalks outside the ISS, and there's many videos of them seeing uh, water bubbles floating across the ISS, and outside of the astronauts' suits, and there's even been interviews, like public interviews with Scott Kelly, where they've asked him, why is there water bubbles on these spacewalks? And he's kind of just avoided the question altogether and kind of played dumb and just, avoided answering the question. And then there's even been articles where these, astronauts have allegedly, almost drowned in space because of water. This makes no sense. And the reason why you have all these issues with these water bubbles and astronauts, allegedly drowning in space is because they're actually they're basically practicing these alleged spacewalks in a neutral buoyancy lab. They say it's practice, but they're actually filming these spacewalks with blue screens and chroma key screens, and they're layering it all into the footage, and they're just saying it's real footage, but they're really just in a big mock-up swimming pool with a mock-up ISS. So let's go ahead and take a little bit of a closer look at this neutral buoyancy lab and how they fake these spacewalks.
NASA employees are living in a simulation, and I have proof.
And even during simulations, it's not just an exercise. The simulations seem as real as the mission.
It's true. The director of NASA Mission Control makes sure that employees can't tell the difference between a simulation and the real mission. Pause and read his quote directly. It's understandable back in the Apollo days because all of Mission Control is just a bunch of data on the screens. I wouldn't be able to tell the difference between a simulation and a real mission if this is all I had besides this real footage. Fast forwarding to today, not much has changed. Just a bunch of data on the screens, and we got one view which they launched from Cape Canaveral toward the Bermuda Triangle. Then once the rocket gets to a certain height, it just turns into like a video game for Mission Control. During interviews of Mission Control, they really only show you just a little bit, but here's an interior shot of the ISS. I could take you there right now on Earth. There's a full mock-up of the International Space Station in Houston, Texas. Google Earth, Johnson Space Center. Click right there on Street View. It'll take you right inside of the International Space Station. Now look at this. I'm going to venture on through and show you a specific part that will really blow your mind. Okay? I want you to look at these stickers, patches, and signatures on the wall. Now get a mental picture of this. Now look at this supposed tour of the ISS while in orbit. I want you to look. See those and the signatures? Now, let's get a close look at the two compared to each other. This is from inside the mock-up, and this is from the tour supposedly in orbit. Now compare the two. What? Well, what about exterior shots of the ISS? You can't fake that. They're in space. Well, check out the blue tint. I'll show you the Neutral Buoyancy Lab. Here is Mission Control at the Neutral Buoyancy Lab, which is a giant Olympic swimming pool with an entire mock-up of the exterior of the International Space Station down under. Now they have a lot of scuba divers, a lot of cameras, a lot of green screens, and a lot of baloney happening right in this area. But they have a live ISS feed, and I track it with my phone. Does the live feed look something like this? Well, is this from the ISS or a weather balloon? It's a weather balloon with a GoPro lens. Now, I agree something's up there, but I don't think it's 250 miles away, the size of a football field, and following the curvature of space-time. Check out my pinned video on unconventional propulsion systems if you want to know what I think it could be. Because when we see it, it's not much smaller than this. Remember, the truth is the truth, whether you believe it or not. A lie needs your permission and your participation to even exist. And the only one place that a lie can exist is in the minds of those who are foolish enough to believe it. Back to you, Mission Control.
We have men in simulations. They're in the simulator. They're not flying up to the moon. But we feel like they're real.
You feel like they're real, but do you think that the entire space program, as you view it in your work, has a sense of unreality to it?
I think the atmosphere you work in is a little bit unreal as far as the actual facilities are concerned. You're totally isolated. You're surrounded by machines. There are no windows in the buildings where you work. The lighting is always the same. You lose all track of time.
Hello everyone. I want to share a video with you today that I hadn't seen before. It's hilarious and just constitutes more clear evidence that outer space is faked in large swimming pools. No one ever went to the moon, and no one is in space right now. I'm sure you remember this clip where you can see a scuba diver in black in the reflection on the cosmonaut's helmet visor. That one's a classic, but even with this evidence, the trolls still defend this nonsense. I've shared this video several times, but you can see water debris that moves with the cosmonaut's hand. Any professional diver can tell you that is exactly what happens in water, and this most certainly shouldn't happen in space. There are hundreds of examples where you can see bubbles in space. Here are some bubbles that are visible from inside the ISS. Here's a clip from the NASA's Neutral Buoyancy Lab. The Neutral Buoyancy Lab is where they have a full-sized ISS in a giant swimming pool.
The Neutral Buoyancy Lab is the largest swimming pool in North America. It contains a full-size replica of the space station.
I do find it interesting that NASA thought it important to build a mock ISS in a swimming pool where they could fake space, but never actually thought it prudent to fully assemble the real ISS in a warehouse where it could undergo extensive engineering testing before subjecting astronauts to the imaginary dangers of space. As more proof of fakery, in this video from the Neutral Buoyancy Lab, you can see a green screen behind the full-sized replica of the ISS in a swimming pool where they are obviously faking space. There is no other purpose for the green screen. If you're claiming the green screen is only used for training, then show us these admitted fake videos of space filmed from the Neutral Buoyancy Lab. But the video I want to really share today comes from this space-loving channel. I spent a couple of wasted hours trying to find the original NASA video. I could not find the original NASA video anywhere, and I hope one of you can maybe find it. Unfortunately, it does seem that NASA is purging these blunders from the internet as NASA gets better at not making mistakes. Regardless, this video is originally from NASA and was certainly filmed from inside NASA's Johnson Space Mission Control Center. This alleged spacewalk was Russian EVA-22 conducted on June 5th, 2009. What's important is just the first few seconds of the video. Here's the clip unedited.
Open the hook. You just have to grip the base of the hook and press.
This was an official alleged NASA spacewalk. This is supposed to be in space. But let's get back to the NASA blunder. Here's the clip again, and you want to be paying attention to the top left television monitor.
Open the hook. You just have.
Here I have slowed it down. And here it is zoomed in. It's a bit blurry, but you can most certainly see scuba divers in black in the water, assisting the alleged cosmonauts next to a mock ISS at the exact same time that NASA is conducting a spacewalk. Can it be any more obvious? Unless you're a lying, despicable troll, you have to admit, NASA is faking space and stealing over $88 million a day from taxpayers under false pretense. Outer space is a scam designed to steal both your money and your soul. Thanks for watching.
Now, obviously, on the topic of water, we can kind of look at some of these little tricks that they do and how they're actually faking them using layered augmented reality. And they can do some of these shoulder cuts on zero-G planes, but most of these clips are actually layered with augmented reality. You can see with this clip, when he actually dries his hands off, the water disappears off of his hand instantly. So it just shows you it's layered augmented reality. It's the same thing with this clip here. It's all augmented reality. It's layered in. You'll see the same glitches with it. You can also notice issues with the reflections of the water. And it's just a common glitch you would see with augmented reality. And so let's go ahead and take a closer look at how they actually fake all of these water tricks on the ISS.
Washcloths ever here on the space station. I'm going to show you. We may have the coolest washcloths ever, so that it saves space. So that it saves space. And the cloth doesn't really unravel itself. It just stays there, floating like a dog's chew toy, soaking wet. Unravel itself. It just stays there. We may have the coolest washcloths ever here on the space station. I'm going to show you. Great experiment, worked perfectly. Meredith and Kendra, congratulations. Great idea.
Oh, water. Pay attention to the reflection in the bubble when Caddy moves upward. Oh, wow. Yeah, the reflection does not move. It would have to move drastically. All right, we'll watch a little bit more. Her face doesn't move as the bubble moves. Her reflection doesn't move proportionate to the bubble here. But again, you just got bubbles in space. Water flies everywhere. They don't care. We just got water everywhere. With the hairspray hair, I've never understood this. Have you guys ever seen hair in zero-G? It moves around. It's not super stiff like a board. Notice also that the women, they never really move very much when they're on the ISS if they have long hair. The women move way less because they don't want you to see their like Frankenstein hair. We're just got more water. Just put water on your head. No big deal. This girl looks like she's hanging upside down. Her face super red. She's got a bunch of tension on the top of her head, and then it looks like they maybe hairsprayed the back end of it to curl it. She's just hanging upside down is what it looks like to me. Well, just squirting water out, who cares? Oh, how could they do this? This proves that it's real. There's no way that you could do this if you weren't on space, except that you can literally use augmented reality or do it in a zero-G plane. That's two ways that you can provably do it. We have videos of people doing both of those things. You can absolutely fake this with augmented reality. You can absolutely fake this with a zero-G plane. So the point, though, is they don't seem to care. Everything must be waterproof because they're just throwing water all over the place. It doesn't matter. It looks like augmented reality to me. It doesn't even look like it's overlaid on his hand very well, but it could be in a zero-G plane. I think augmented reality, personally. I think this clip is like 2-3 minutes long or at least or something like that, and that's a long zero-G plane. Unless they're really, they could make really slick cuts and stuff. There are moments that they could be a different scene, you wouldn't really know. Like he changes right here. But I think that it's augmented reality.
I'm going to show you in this video how NASA fakes zero-G without a vomit comet or a zero-G plane. Now, I've heard a lot of theories from other flat earthers of some big energy, fieldy, sound wavy thing that pushes matter up in the air through sheer energy. But to be honest, some of the theories did sound like two healthy choices to me. No, I've been praying about it, and the Lord finally revealed to me one video, and I work with Blender and Unity, and I've been working with special effects software, Photoshop, for quite a while now. And when I saw this video, I realized it became instantly clear how they do it. And it's just video game technology. Now, if you're part of the Geek Squad or the techie crowd, well, then you already know about this technology. And so let's get to the video that caught my attention, and you will see the same things that I saw. Let's watch.
We have to introduce the concept of free fall. So let's use this model of the Earth. And let's enlist the help of a friend, Paxi. You might know her.
So what is significant about this video is, number one, it was live to school children. Number two, we have this stuffed animal that is transitioning in on another video channel. And the actor is able to reach up and grab this doll in real 3D space and manipulate this doll with their hands. And so the only way you're going to pull that off is with one technology. And that technology is virtual reality. More importantly, though, something called augmented virtual reality. Now, before 2012, NASA used masking techniques much like we do in Photoshop and After Effects. But now we're able to simulate water and objects live in real 3D space. So we're able to take models of things that are photorealistic and rotate and move them while we are going live. Before, we used to have to render these effects frame by frame by frame, and it took extremely long amounts of time. In this video here I made last year, I'm using Sony Vegas, and I was just playing around with the masking capabilities of Sony Vegas. I don't even know why I saved this video, but here I'm standing in the kitchen and I'm just lifting up this trash can to make it kind of look like it's floating. And I didn't do a lot of work on this. It was just something I wanted to see real quick. But that is a masking effect to get another effect. We now have the technology to simulate water, materials, fabrics live in real 3D space with virtual reality, but better yet, augmented virtual reality. And all augmented virtual reality is taking the objects in 3D space from a virtual reality world and putting them in our world on another screen, which we can see, manipulate, and touch with virtual reality contacts or glasses. In this next segment, I'm going to show you how NASA grabs objects in 3D space, rotates them around, manipulates them. They can do this with water, with cloth, anything. And the cool thing about it is we can take what they're doing, what they're seeing with their contact virtual reality augmented lenses, and put that on a separate video layer live. Yes, live, and do it all in real time. So I'm going to show you what it looks like to them as they're grabbing objects and manipulating them. And then I'm going to show you Microsoft's HoloSense video, their demonstration at E3 a couple years ago, of bringing a virtual reality into our world, and it is simply amazing. Let's watch.
Specifically, how HoloLens can turn every room of your house into a personalized video game level. But today, we want to take mixed reality one step further. So we've got something new to show you. Holograms you can hold. This holographic gauntlet is the weapon that Dan will be using while playing Project X-Ray. You'll notice that as he moves his arm, the hologram moves as well. This is a wearable hologram. And when you combine technology like this with the environment understanding of HoloLens, you can do some pretty spectacular things. And can even use his shield to defend himself. Nicely done. Looks like that's all of them.
In 2012, NASA got tired of faking weightlessness by using the zero-G plane, better known as the Vomit Comet. So in 2012, they started soliciting companies that specialize in real-time augmented virtual reality so that they can fake weightlessness and floating objects in the air in real time. Simply the cost of the plane and the safety concerns and the fact that they weren't very good at it. They didn't go to Hollywood, which most of Hollywood's effects are post-processing. That's after the video is made. They needed something they can do in real time and make it look realistic. And so I'll put this link in the description. They found a company called Telemetrics. Thank you, Debbie Durant, for bringing this to my attention. After I researched this, lo and behold, I found out our government has a contract with these people. And Telemetrics, basically what they do is they help news teams and they bring broadcasts together in real time, and they're able to create sets, cities, anything you want in a virtual reality world and make it look absolutely 100% real. They're also able to bring different people from around the world, put them in the same room and broadcast live, give them desks, whatever they need to make the broadcast. So it's a pretty amazing company. Here we see Johnson Space Center. Telemetrics provided latest camera robotics technology at NASA's government television at Mission Control. Why do you need to fake virtual reality sets at Mission Control and Johnson Space Center? I think we know the answer to that when we saw Tim Peake on the gridded blue screen. So this next segment, I'm going to show you what it looks like when virtual reality being broadcast live doesn't work out so well because the system's not perfect. And then at the very end, I'm going to show you the mother of all screw-ups when they actually have a channel shut off that should be on. Because once again, these astronauts are looking in 3D space. They are grabbing objects because they're wearing augmented contact lenses. And if that object's not there broadcast to the viewers live, then it's going to look pretty ridiculous. So let's see some of NASA's screw-ups. I'll cover them as they happen, and then we'll move on to the final. Okay, so this is one of NASA's older videos where they use post-processing and masks. This is a video layer mask in augmented virtual reality. We're going to see him lose his finger here. The watch glitches out. So I guess virtual reality accidents can cause loss of fingers. In this next video, we have Caddy. Now I want you to pay attention to her neck and the way her neckline goes into her shirt. It's cut off. And the necklace. Apparently they wanted to show how cool this necklace looked. Unfortunately, it's not perfect. The necklace goes in and out of her shirt unnaturally, and her neck glitches in several places. I literally spent hours going after probably 30 or 40 videos, probably had approximately 45 minutes straight of NASA messing up the virtual reality setup. I tried to pick some clips that were obvious and some not so obvious. Show you some of the contacts. We're going to see Tim Peake with his contacts in, but these are virtual reality contacts overlaid on the eyes so actors can interact with things in 3D space, all in real time. In this next shot, we will get to see the whole arm setup and the virtual reality glove that covers all the way down the arm and hand. This allows the software to broadcast what we see video-wise as his arm in a shirt sleeve. Okay, I have a lot of Tim Peake screw-ups, but this one here, the system glitches. The software does not track his hand properly, and Tim slips his hand underneath his other fingers, which is tightly holding onto the mic, which would be impossible. I don't think this is Tim's fault. Normally, Tim always moves his other fingers up while he slides his hand under. I just think the system didn't respond to his movements here. This picture here is actually Tim's fault. His hand breaches the 3D mic floating in front of him. In this next clip, we're going to see Tim's arms glitch out as he's manipulating a 3D bubble. Now, this bubble can be done in real time now. We have the technology to do that, which I showed you at the beginning of this. And this bubble is environmentally lit, or HDRI lit, by its environment, which means the bubble can take up its reflections and refractions as it moves around in 3D space in Tim's augmented reality. Once again, augmented VR just means bringing the 3D objects into our world on a separate monitor. In this last clip, we're going to see NASA royally screw up. It's a live broadcast, and one of their video channels is off, not working. That's the channel that is supposed to show us, the public, what the astronauts are seeing in virtual reality. Also, the channel shut off is the masking for the guy on the wires in the background. You can't make this stuff up. Just watch. We all know NASA uses wires, and sometimes they'll catch them like this here. The guy pulled on his wire. However, some days when you're filming live, things just don't work out, and it becomes so blatantly obvious, it's ridiculous. So, in this clip, they're talking, live feed, and what you know, we have a astronaut go by us in the background, obviously trying to give it a more realistic, spacey, station busy effect. The only problem is the camera that was supposed to mask this harness out, or the video feed, is not working. And so we see the guy come flying along in a harness on his wires. Pretty amazing. But that's not all that goes wrong here. Okay, so you see to the right, this guy's flipping this hat. This hat's actually on another video channel in 3D space. It's virtual reality. They're wearing augmented contact lenses so that they can interact with these 3D objects. Now, in this scene, the guy on the left in the green shirt, he thinks he sees an object in 3D space that's being broadcast to him. So he grabs it and he puts it off to the side. He's looking straight ahead because he's looking at an object rotating in front of him, but the video channel is down that is supposed to show the viewers what we're supposed to see, and so we don't actually get to see the object that he is seeing. And I would just sum this up as a very terrible, bad, horrible day for NASA doing live feeds. Hey, Tim, you still there? Yeah. Can you explain to us what this astronaut's going through as he sees something with his eyes in 3D space, but it's not actually there being broadcast to the public? What's going through this astronaut's mind?
This system is sending signals to the brain that doesn't really match your eyes, and so your brain's trying to work out the two differences.
Here's the thing. As much fun as this was, there is a time coming when you and I will not be able to tell the difference, and space has not changed. Technology to fake space has gotten better. Just because Adobe gets a massive update to Photoshop or After Effects, or there's a massive update at Telemetrics and their virtual reality, augmented virtual reality programming, that does not advance us magically 20 years in space. Space has not changed. It's flat. It's above us. It's dimensional, and we cannot orbit Earth. You have been warned. This is very serious stuff, and if you do not get it now, you won't get it later, because later you won't know the difference. This is Mike. God bless everybody. Please like.
Hi there. I've had a lot of people ask me how I wash my hair in space. How I do it. Let's see. To get started, these are the things I need. A bag of warm water, a little no-rinse shampoo, towel, and my comb. to do is start by just putting some hot water, squirting it onto my scalp. And I have a mirror here so I can kind of watch what I'm doing. Sometimes the water gets away from you. And you try and catch as much as you can. And I just work the water up through to the ends of my hair. And I take my no-rinse shampoo and squirt it also on the scalp just a little bit and rub it in. Again, kind of working it out to the ends. And sometimes I'll actually take my comb and work it all the way to the ends. And I like to take my towel while I have the shampoo in there and just kind of work it. Because without standing under running water, you kind of need to use the towel a little bit to help get some of the dirt out. I like to follow that by a little more water. It's called no-rinse shampoo, but I think it's best to use a little water with it. Feels kind of squeaky clean right now. I'll take the dry part of my towel. We use towels for quite a while here, since we have limited supplies. We use them wisely. I think that's pretty good. And now as my hair dries, as the water evaporates from my hair, it will become humidity in the air, and then our air conditioning system will collect that into condensate. While it's drying. And that is how I wash my hair in space on the International Space Station.
Now, obviously, we've kind of covered all the basics on how they fake the ISS footage from the ground and how they fake these quote unquote live streams. But when we actually look and observe the ISS from a telescope, we can obviously see something up in the sky that can be observed with even a Nikon camera and a 12-inch, 14-inch telescope. So what are we actually observing in the sky when these ISS videos and photos are transiting the lunar or solar, moon or sun? Well, I actually came across some very interesting information in regards to the Project Bluebeam with the curious timeline of Serge Monast and then the timeline of the pre-processing software that supposedly lines up with when the ISS could actually be filmed when it was completed. I also came across some very interesting information with a facility called the Gasometer in Oberhausen, Germany. And this facility actually can extrapolate raw data and put it onto this exhibition, and it can create holograms in real time, even outside of the facility for miles of the ISS, of planets, and there's a lot of interesting information going on with the holographic technology they have. So very curious timeline with the holograph technology. Also found some other holograph technology with NASA with their actual launches, their space launches, and some information with some insiders that leaked some information with Project Bluebeam and the holographic technology. So it's a lot of curious information and timelines with the holograph technology and this gasometer in Germany that kind of ties to the ISS, and also came across information with electrostatic propulsion and how the ISS could easily be faked with an object put into our electromagnetic torus field, and how that very much resembles what we actually see with our measurable torus field and the ISS path that it takes. So there's a lot of discrepancies I came across and interesting information I came across that we're going to kind of go over here briefly. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at what people are actually observing when they're observing the quote unquote ISS from a telescope.
So after you get the warning from Sputnik that you have 30 seconds to see the station, start looking in the direction that it recommends. So let's say we see it coming right there. We can spot it in with the Telrad and take your first photo. You know, now you can check the camera and see if you got it. So you'll need to zoom in.
What you want to do is go here. You can do this yourself. Change the date and time. Change it. Let's right now 7:18. So let's go to 2 p.m. You saw that? It jumped. Why did it do that? How is it reading my clock? Isn't this supposed to be a tracker? Image copyrighted. Terms of use. See, it changed completely. And now it's out of sync with this one, but the ISS live one is still going.
Okay, I got it. You can go back, get the station again in the sight, take some more pictures, follow it up. It's going to be getting brighter and brighter as you go, and closer. The best pictures are going to be taken when the space shuttle is right above your head.
Oink. What? I control the ISS live feed. What? I'm sorry, guys. I wasn't expecting this. I'm doing this live. Okay. So this is the Ustream of the ISS, and I just control their tracker with my clock in my computer. So apparently this one's legit, and this one must be the fake one. Oh no.
So keep going. You might want to get as many as 50 or 60 photographs. And of those, maybe only 2 or 3 will turn out. Keep taking photographs. Get it in the sight. You know, the space station spends 1 or 2 minutes right above your head. So what you could do, if you want, in the middle, you can, again, hit the play button and see how you're doing, see how it's coming along, okay? You might need to adjust the focus again. So really quick, you would just pick a nearby star, focus it, go back to the station.
How am I supposed to... What are you seeing in the sky? People saying that they can track it, you can see with your telescope. How are you tracking this with this? I'm controlling the ISS one. I'm gonna do it again, just for fun. This is the NASA live stream. People, please. Do this yourself. You just play with your clock and see what you get. 7 p.m. Boom, it moved. Even the freaking shadow moved. That means this is not being tracked. This means this is a joke. This means this is fake.
Get as many photos as you can, and when you get back to your house, pull them up with the computer, and take the ones that are the clearest, really.
I am with a group of brownies trying to spot satellites in the early evening sky.
Now, we don't just look this way, we've got to look all across the sky. We've got to try and take it all in.
I can see the moon, but I can see two of them.
On average, 2 satellites pass over Britain every quarter of an hour. But they're not the easiest things to see.
Now, what are you looking for? Well, you're looking for something that looks a bit like an aeroplane, but it's not going to flash, and it's going to move slowly across the sky.
Tonight, my team of brownies is in for a treat. Because the biggest satellite of them all is due to pass directly over Hatfield. It's the International Space Station, the largest thing human beings have ever put into orbit. It took more than 12 years and 30 trips to build, and it circles the Earth nearly 16 times a day. Everyone, including the astronomers with their telescopes, is waiting for it to appear over the horizon.
Whoa, I can see a star moving really, really quickly.
Oh, no, see, I don't think that's a star moving, that's a space station.
I can see it.
That is the International Space Station.
There's a crude rule of thumb. If a satellite orbits 300 kilometers up, it needs to be just 1 square meter for us to see it with the naked eye.
Time there's double the...
All right, man. Welcome to the Crow Discovery Project. I wanted to run this. Randy in Houston, my good friend, who I trust implicitly to deliver the goods that are not phony, has filmed the ISS, or the supposed ISS, with a handheld shot, which is a damn difficult thing to do. He sent me footage before. He's getting better at it. Every time I have ever seen the ISS through binoculars and other things, this is what it looks like. You'll notice that as he does this, and this is damn difficult because you're looking at a light going through the sky pretty quickly, so to do a handheld shot while you're zooming and get any stability in it is a pretty difficult thing to do. I've tried to do it before and got like a second or two of footage. You will notice that the stars are out of focus in places, but as the footage goes on, in certain places, the stars are pretty much in focus, which tells you that the supposed light here called the ISS is in focus. As time goes on, I'm sure people will begin to get their exposure down to take some of the brightness out of the object. But nonetheless, I have witnessed exactly this when I've looked at it through binoculars. I see a lot of people producing faked footage of the ISS, which is why I'm running this, because I know it's real. Whenever you see a shape that looks like the ISS going over the moon, it's faked. You see white footage of the ISS, it's faked. I have seen what is called the ISS cross the surface of the moon just by chance when I was looking through a telescope. It crosses in less than a second. I've seen NASA produce stuff where it shows this perfectly shaped little thing. I have never seen an amateur that I trust produce anything that doesn't look something like this. And again, every time I have had a handheld pair of binoculars or whatever and managed to get on this thing for a while, this is what it looks like. In my view, the ISS is a hoax, but everyone's got to make up their own mind. Here's actual ISS or supposed ISS footage from an absolutely trustable source. I guarantee you this is what Randy says it is. He's an honest man, and he has put in some serious sky watching hours, even having filmed the lunar wave, which proves he has put in a major portion of his life to get footage. And when you do that, you're not going to fake it. Anyhow, there it is. I thought people might be interested. They ask all the time. Well done, Randy. Not an easy thing to do.
Called like Project Bluebeam.
Yeah, good one.
What is that?
That's
lasers, right?
Yeah, I can actually talk about that one, but that is it's really bad. But you know the people that see orbs in the sky.
Yeah,
go around that fly faster.
UFOs. UFOs. Yeah, there's Navy pilots. There's multiple Navy pilots who talk about they got their they were flying F-18s. These Navy pilots, and one of them's coming in here in 2 weeks. He's Ryan Graves.
Okay.
He's a Navy pilot flying off the coast of North Carolina, and they got their their radar upgraded on their F-18s, and all of a sudden they were seeing these things darting around on their radar.
Okay. Don't tell him what I'm about to say and see if he knows about it.
Okay.
So what we do is we play with our own forces to make sure our trickery will work on the enemy. And those are directed energy weapons of where we do intersecting beams or focus beams into the atmosphere. And notice they're always in the atmosphere to excite the electron orbitals of the oxygen and nitrogen in our atmosphere. And it causes a glow and it causes ionization. That ionization shows up on radar and it's like a cat laser pointer. And we're making planes chase them.
That's exactly how they describe these things moving, like laser pointers.
Yeah, and so we can do it in 3 space. We can make it look like...
in 3-dimensional space.
Yeah, and we can make it look like an entire fleet is about to drop bombs on, let's say, Europe, and then just have them disappear. And they get all their planes up in the air, and we attack them from the other direction, assuming we're attacking Europe.
Who is doing this? The Navy, you said?
Somebody. Let's just say a group, you know.
And you know this for a fact.
I know for a fact, yeah. So anyway, don't tell your guests.
A group within the U.S. government.
Yeah, okay, we'll leave it at that. Yes.
And is this something that could be seen with the naked eye? Or
yes,
is this something
because
that was
it glows. It glows. So it would be seeable, you can see it by the naked eye, and it would leave a radar trace. So it's perfect as a deception.
Now, with that being said, the observatories, they're obviously creating these objects in the sky that move like what he was saying, like a laser pointer. And if you actually observe the ISS with just the binoculars or a Nikon camera or even a telescope, without zooming in and getting these high-def images, which I'm going to get into how they actually process those. When you actually just zoom it, the raw data, the raw image of it, it looks like it's moving like a laser pointer. Well, it's interesting enough, these astronomical observatories, when you look on a world map, they're laid out in every country and every continent of the world. So, they're basically laid out all over the world. And with that being said, it wouldn't be too big of a problem for a huge private corporation like NASA with all the technology they have and the advanced tech they have and the billions of dollars of funding they have to coordinate a system where these holographic images could be projected between one observatory to another observatory across the sky, and it would be in a timely, coordinated manner between these observatories. It'd be a perfectly set up, coordinated time and date. It'd be automated between these observatories, and then the tracker, the tracking software that they use with the real-time tracking, it would all be coordinated between these observatories, what they're projecting. The thing is these observatories, this is just some of them. They also have the ISON observatories, and they also have military bases. So this is just part of what they have for these observatories. So they could coordinate, obviously, a system where this is being projected between all these observatories, and the tracking software would be lined up perfectly by the minute of what they're projecting with these observatories. Now, when you look at the timeline of this holographic technology from NASA, if you look into like even Serge Monast, he was digging into this back in the 90s, and he basically had this suspicious death in 1996 where he passed away of a heart attack at just the age of 51. And a lot of conspiracy theorists will say, he passed away. He didn't pass away. He was assassinated because of what he was releasing on this holographic technology from NASA. Well, the interesting thing is, when he passed away in 1996, it was just a year and a half later that the ISS was launched in 1998. So it's kind of a weird coincidence that that's when that was launched, is right after the guy that was speaking out against their holograph technology. That's when the ISS was launched. But just a couple years shortly after the ISS was launched, the Stellarium software was released, which was when it's basically a planetary program. It's a app software that you use to plug in the date and time of when you're supposed to be spotting the ISS to do basically high definition photos of it. So you plug that into your laptop or your phone, and then you plug that up to your telescope, and then it's all timed out to where your phone is going to be hooked up to your telescope. It's going to know exactly what it's looking at per the date and time you're putting in of the ISS quote unquote sighting. So, you look into that, and then the timing of that's kind of suspicious, but then you look into the timing of the PIPP software, which was the planetary pre-processing imaging software for the ISS to take high definition photos and images of it. That didn't come out until around 2011, 2012 was the first release date of it, which coincidentally is also when the ISS was completed. So when you could first take a full high def image of it being completed is when this software came out. So a lot of interesting coincidences with this timeline, with this holographic technology and this pre-processing imaging software. But even when you look into some of these images of the ISS all the way back to like 2014, I think it goes back even earlier than that, 2013, you can see they're very blurry. They look like a holograph. They look like a hologram. And then you get into, the later years, and it gets more and more high def. Obviously, technology is going to advance over the years, but, how do we know that it's not always looked like this? And then all of a sudden they have this, the Auto Stacker 3 and the Registax software, and then they have the PIP software. You literally have to run it through like 3 different filters and processing softwares just to get this high def image. And I'm going to show you that here in a minute, how that actually works and how much take the original blurry image and how much it looks totally different once it's run through the imaging software. But you'll notice that there's parts that are missing from the first images. Like when you look at the close-up images, some of these are missing. The color's different. Must have lost my page here, but the images are some of the colors will be different. The parts will be missing in the central hub of it. And so obviously there's a lot of discrepancies with the earlier photos and then the newer photos. So it seems like they've had this holograph that's changed over time, and they've also updated the imaging software over time to give you these more higher definition photos, which you would never see in a raw image. It's always going to be a stacked photo. So let's go ahead and get into how they actually stack these photos and how much of a difference there is from the raw data when you see the laser pointer looking hologram that's just flying across the sky to these high definition photos that they can even add animation to once they filter it. So we'll go ahead and look at that and look at the drastic differences between the two.
The program, but I shouldn't be wasting people's time with me stacking pictures. But I think I got that, and I need to change. But the telescope went to Saturn, so I should check that out first.
It's one of the show Saturn. It's one of the things that I thought was strangest about when Miss and I went to an observatory for this big event they were supposed to have, and they have this huge telescope we were able to look through. But we went there, and of course they're looking at the moon, and we're like, "Can we look at something else?" They're like, "No, tonight's the moon night." I was like, "Great." But everybody comes there with their telescopes, and there was probably 25 or 30 telescopes out there, and we could kind of walk around and look into them if we want, and everything looked like you would expect, nothing fantastic at all. But there was this huge crowd around this guy who had this huge telescope, but his telescope was hooked up to a computer, and he was the one showing everybody beautiful pictures. But again, they were all stacked and like over a long time, like, basically took 4 hours worth of pictures and then stacked them or something. But I kept telling him, like, well, can I see that through the lens piece? And we couldn't even look through the lens piece because the camera was in there. But he said, no, it's just stacked images do that.
Say that you want to take a high def image or video of the ISS. The first thing you have to do is download this app called Stellarium. It's a planetarium imaging app software you'd want to plug into your laptop or phone to set up with your telescope. From there, you set up the date and time that you're wanting to track this ISS sighting from Spot the Station, which is the ISS tracker, and you set up this time and date on your phone, so your phone is going to know exactly when it's seeing the quote-unquote ISS, because you're then going to set up your phone or your laptop to your telescope that you're viewing this sighting. Then you have to download the PIPP, the AutoStacker 3, and Registack software, which are all pre-processing imaging software. So after you'd already taken the many blurry photos of this ISS that looked like it was being laser pointed across the sky, you then upload this to this PIPP software. And this PIP software will destabilize the shaky imagery, the kind of the laser pointer looking imagery. It'll destabilize it, and then you'll sharpen it. You'll reset the saturation and contrast on it. You'll sharpen and focus on the image through this PIP software, and then you'll also go through the Registacks and the AutoStacker software, which is also going to fine-tune the software, and it's going to give you a more focused image like this one here that looks nothing like the blurry holographic image you had seen earlier. And then it'll go through another processing software, AutoStacker, and you can even set up an option to animate it, which will make it move back and forth and oscillate, because normally it's not going to do that, but with this app software, it can add that to the filter and it can sharpen it and make it animated. So again, it doesn't look anything like the original one that you actually filmed. So this is how this is all coordinated through the imaging software and the tracking software. It's all set up. It's pre-set up on your phone, so when you're actually looking at a holographic image, it's going to fine-tune it and give you this final result, which looks, again, nothing like the original one that you filmed. So that being said, let's go ahead and look at some of this holographic technology from NASA and from the Gasometer observatory in Germany, and look at some of the other trickery they do with phones and telescopes.
SpaceX. Here, I call this the Tupac rocket. Here it is. And this one went up and the top half of the rocket disappeared. And if you look at this, it goes off. There's a bunch of smoke blown out of the ground. And then this thing is going up, and this little flame is lifting up this, 100 tons of weight, right? Where's the thrust? But this one, when it went up, there was a little glitch, and all of a sudden you'll see the top half of the rocket will disappear. Okay. And after we saw this, I think it was after we saw this one, we were looking at some, I think, Google Earth pictures of NASA's, launch pad. And we found these weird spotlights, and we zoomed in on them, and we were able to get it was either a name or a serial number or something. And we Googled it, and we found out it's from a holographic projection company. A holographic projection company.
There is a dark theory about Samsung phones. You know how they always pride themselves on having a better phone than iPhone? They say that their cameras are the best. They say you can literally point your camera at the moon and the quality is better than the telescope. They do really advertise like being able to zoom into the moon. So I watched this video by Shane Dawson and watched this clip. You see how the guy's able to zoom into the moon? Yeah, pretty good, right? Like it looks really good, right? So Samsung actually just came out saying how they actually fake moon pictures on Samsung phones, and they used AI to do this. But a guy made a video showing how Samsung's able to do this. Like, watch this clip. It's insane how he does this. He found a picture of a regular white circle and placed it on the other side of their house. They then zoomed in as much as they could to trick the phone into thinking it was a picture of the moon. The phone camera then replaced that white circle with a picture of the moon. It was just a white circle, and then it turns into the moon. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. Any white circle will turn into the moon, dude. That's a scam. Who knows what other technology that is out there, like deceiving us with AI.
Right, so I'm going to play these videos, Marcus, and then you can break it down for people. I want to let everyone see this. This is on that Gasometer in Germany, so everybody can hear this. Here we go.
Das Ziel war, die Schönheit der Erde zu zeigen, dem Besucher die Möglichkeit zu geben, die Erde wie ein Astronaut zu sehen.
Die Erde, die eigentlich eben so zerbrechlich wie großartig, mächtig, kräftig, aber eben auch sensibel ist. Vor ungefähr 2 Jahren hatten wir die Idee, diese Ausstellung zu machen. Und wenn man jetzt reinkommt, sieht man dann diese Skulptur, diese Erdskulptur, die in bewegten Bildern das erste Mal in der Auflösung uns die Erde in dieser Vielfalt zeigt.
Die Erdskulptur ist riesig. Mit einem Durchmesser von 20 Metern. Das ist natürlich eine riesige Fläche, die wir bespielen müssen. Die Animation hat eine Auflösung von 58 Millionen Pixel. Das ist riesig. Das ist das 7-fache eines konventionellen digitalen Kinos. Und deswegen müssen die Daten auch eine ordentliche Auflösung haben. Vom Satelliten braucht es flächendeckend global. Am deutschen Fernerkundungsdatenzentrum des TLR empfangen wir Satellitendaten, wir verarbeiten diese und archivieren sie in unserem Langzeitdatenarchiv. Es gibt Satelliten, die liefern uns Details im Boden, im Bereich von wenigen Zentimetern. Andere Satelliten, die sehen Wellenlängenbereiche, die für das menschliche Auge nicht sichtbar sind. Dadurch können wir den Wasserdampf in der Atmosphäre sichtbar machen. All das ist in dieser Kugel zu erkennen. Eine wahnsinnig schöne ästhetische Dynamik. Ein ganzes Team hat daran gearbeitet, all diese verschiedenen Datensätze zu einer virtuellen Erde zu kombinieren. Wir haben mit virtuellen Kameras dieses 3D-Modell der Erde abgefilmt und so genau die Animation erzeugt. Ja. Das ist unbenötigt.
That's great, dude.
Es ist eine Begegnung von wissenschaftlicher Bildwelt und poetischer Sicht. Man sieht die Feuchtigkeit in der Bewegung, den Tag- und Nachtrhythmus, der uns vertraut ist.
Wir können sehr, sehr schön auf unserer Erdskulptur den Verlauf der Bruchzonen erkennen. Die Stellen, an denen neues Material entsteht.
All das, dieser ganze Reichtum von Geschichten, den wir hier haben, der ist nur auf einem Planeten möglich. Und nun sieht man den Planeten und sieht ihn plötzlich in Bewegung.
Wir arbeiten seit Jahren mit Satellitendaten und sind den Anblick gewohnt. Aber als ich dann für diese riesigen Erdskulptur eben 100 Meter hohen Gasometer stand, da war ich schwer beeindruckt. Das ist ein völlig anderer Eindruck, den man wahrscheinlich so sonst normal bekommt.
You can only play this ball, is enough.
Okay. Okay, so I wanted to show that to everyone and let Marcus interpret it.
Yes.
Because what the first thing, when John and I looked at it the other day, the first thing I thought about was that so-called Japanese satellite they claim that is actually looking at the Earth and watching the moon pass in front of it. And that this is everything that they're showing us when they say, okay, this is the Earth, you see it rotating, whatever have you, that they're actually doing it at this facility. This facility has been in existence since 1920.
You know, the data they receive, they say that they can use satellites which are very close, can see very close to the Earth on one side, and on the other side they can make visible the data which cannot seen by the human eye, they claim. And all this data which they collected from the German Remote Sensing Data Center, DFD, which is an institute of the German Aerospace Center, DLR, and they achieved this data. Yeah. And the DFD supports science, industry, and public alike. So it provides, with its national and international ground station, have immediate access to the data of the national and international Earth observation satellites ago. They receive the data, they collecting the data, and they archivate the data, and producing this ball Earth, this rotating ball Earth with all this moving stuff inside or outside, yeah, which is absolutely incredible, you know. But this is not real. And now we're coming to the phenomenon. This is how this is working, that the data is coming. So they're creating the data only? This is the question, you know. How they get this data out? From what? From which source they get this data? This is the big question here, yeah?
Yeah.
And they say, one second, and they say that you can go with an elevator, you can traveling, this is a panoramic elevator inside this gas chamber, and you can go up to this with this elevator, and you can see the Earth from 36,000 kilometers away on the globe, like an astronaut, they claim. So you can see the Earth, how great the Earth is, and how fragile the Earth is. So they tell us, yeah. And but this is only so basically. This has nothing to do that is used in the 1920s. So only the gas chamber is used from the 1920s. So they make practically, they are an exhibition area, yeah, where they can do several things. Who's inside?
Yeah, this is really interesting because there's one video I want to show everyone.
Who's this inside?
Yeah, hang on. I want to show everyone this. I want everyone to see this. According to this video, they can project these images outside of this chamber.
Yeah, but I'll do this.
Look at the reflection in the river, in the water. Look at the sun in the center. You saw that?
Yeah.
There's a sun in the center.
Yeah.
And they can project all these images.
Yeah.
Now, I wanted to kind of mention again that video you showed. I mean, obviously they're showing holographic images projected outside of the building. You know, and even with that video, it's showing like the ISS being projected like, and you know, outside of the moon here, like transiting the moon. So it's showing you like some hologram technology kind of hiding the truth in plain sight here. But it's showing, you know, technology that, you know, obviously they have the capability of projecting celestial objects and planets outside of, you know, in the atmosphere. And you can see it, all the sun and these objects, these celestial objects are reflecting in the river. So these are projecting, you know, hundreds, thousands of feet, you know, if not maybe miles. They have the capability of projecting these miles away. And if they can project, you know, if they can have technology for faking these NASA rocket launches and SpaceX rocket launches, and they can fake the moon holographic images on phones, and they can project these holographs outside of this Gasometer facility in Germany, like what other technology do they have? Obviously, they're showing us hologram technology right in front of us here. So it just goes to show that they have the capability of faking and projecting the ISS and planetary objects out in the atmosphere. And there's even some more issues that I ran into with the ISS hologram imagery. And let's go ahead and take a closer look at some of these other discrepancies.
And that is when I started to research, because one, I know the ISS is not up there. So how does Red get a picture of the ISS? And come to find out, there's an ISS tracker. And the tracker is so very convenient because the tracker tells you when the ISS is going to pass in front of A, the sun, or B, the moon, at your given location and the date. And so all a person has to do is get their camera pointed at the sun or the moon and wait. And lo and behold, you're going to see what appears to be the ISS crossing in front of either or the sun and the moon. And so just that is way too convenient. Just with the orbital trajectory of the ISS, it'd be nearly impossible. Okay. Now, there's no other satellites they do this with, despite the so-called thousands of satellites up there, just the ISS, because it is their big showboat money thing. And when I researched Red's Rhetoric live video, and I took it apart frame by frame, and I put it into Photoshop, and I put it into Sony Vegas, and I started looking at it through filters, I noticed, okay, so what we did was we took a P900, we went and took some photos of the moon. This is what scan lines on a regular P900 would look like. Okay, this is the scan lines from a P900, and this is a photo of the moon. Now, do you see this photo?
Yes.
Okay, this is Red's Rhetoric's photo from his P900. And I don't know if you can see it, but you can see a green bar up here. You can see a red bar, a red bar, a red bar. Do you see these bars on the side of here?
Yes.
These color bars. Okay, those are also color issues with the scanning sensor in the camera. However, they are very unlike what a normal P900 would show, okay? These lines also, you guys remember the eclipse. I think Mark and I actually talked about the eclipse a while back. The moon didn't show up for the eclipse. Remember that, Mark?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, we talked about that. And, well, actually, yeah, I think that was on your program. We talked about that. Mm-hmm. Okay, the only two places the moon showed up was in Tennessee. Well, two photos from Tennessee showed up. And everybody else that took a picture of the moon all over, nobody else saw the moon. But in Tennessee, two cameras caught what they call earthshine of the moon. But also in those photos, one was Soundly's, which is a T5 Rebel. Soundly had these strange color variations in his sensors, which I could not explain. See, I thought, well, maybe Soundly faked it. Okay. But what's going on here is these color sensors, what this camera is picking up is a projection from a source somewhere.
Yes.
Okay, this is Red's ISS. Okay, now I put this in and okay, this ISS, there's part of the wing and the tip. I know it's hard to see because I had to zoom in, but it completely gets cut off at the moon's line here, when we should have been able to see the rest of the ISS and one or two frames after this. Now, you remember this thing supposedly is traveling at 17,500 miles an hour, so it's clicking across here pretty quick. But I still had two more frames. In Red's video, it completely stops, as if somebody had taken a laser pen light and put a dot on the moon and just moved it across. And so we have the strange anomalies with the sensor, which are the same strange anomalies from the projection of the moon they did in Tennessee that Soundly picked up. And so when we see these things in these sensors in these cameras, they actually pick up the infrared or whatever technology they're using to broadcast these images on the surface of the sun and the moon. But this is a projection image. The ISS also had something strange. I don't have his video anymore, but he also his ISS was blinking like it was being projected by something. And me and Anthony and a few others, we analyzed that too. So that's that. Now people may be thinking, well, how are they doing the SpaceX stuff? Because you can actually go to Florida and see the Falcon land. But once again, what I found with the Falcon, one, you have to be far away across the lake. You can't be there on site. So you have to film it from a distance. Number two, compared by several cameras, the Falcon will just suddenly appear in the sky. And I compared this with three different people's cameras who were there at the time filming this. They all had the same effect. The Falcon just appears, magic, in the sky. And then the Falcon does its landing sequence with all the noise and the dust and the rocket effects. But once again, I submit to the people, this is projection technology.
There's obviously a lot of evidence of this holographic technology, whether it's from NASA or from SpaceX, these SpaceX launches, or it's from the Gasometer facility in Oberhausen, Germany, or even some of the technology that's built into these phones with the projection of the moon. There's a lot of technology with holographs and AI that we don't even really know about. And obviously, Project Bluebeam has been around since the early 80s, so who knows how far that's advanced, decades later. Obviously, there's capabilities of creating this holographic image of the ISS, but is there other means of pulling off this magic show that they call the ISS? Could they perhaps be putting it into an object into the electromagnetic toroidal field that we know exists, that we can measure, and is there a way that they could launch something into that would be moving into that toroidal field and that magnetic field? Well, with the technology available with electromagnetic propulsion, it looks like that is another way that they could fake this ISS. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at this technology.
And it was something that Brian had said months ago, which was, what if there was some sort of electromagnetic, I'm going to use different words, electromagnetic layer up there that they discovered that you could put something in there and keep it up flying for a long, long time, with microprocessor technology. It's possible. I think it's in the realm, but
some people have said things like that they may have found a way, I'm not saying I believe this, I don't know, to stick something to the firmament.
Or at the very least, create a place where you could bounce a signal off, like a signal concentration point that you could use, as a repeater for other places.
They have a lot of things we don't understand. I'm sorry.
I saw this International Space Station crossing the moon, and I thought to myself, how come it's only about a quarter of the size of a plane crossing the moon? Seems like it'd be much smaller than that, especially when we look at the size comparison and see that both an airplane and the International Space Station are about the same size as a football field. And then you look at a football field from an airplane window and you realize that it looks pretty small from there. So then I wonder, is this really 250 miles away? Then I thought to myself, well, it can't be fake, because I can go on YouTube and watch the live stream of the ISS coursing across the face of the Earth. And someone obviously took this picture, and I know you can track it, and there's people who see it all the time, but the live feed footage doesn't look much higher than a weather balloon, and we all know most satellites are launched by balloon. So then I came across this thing, which is a U.S. patented triangular spacecraft that uses what is called unconventional spacecraft propulsion systems, which is a spacecraft having a triangular hull with vertical electrostatic line charges on each corner that produce a horizontal electric field parallel to the sides of the hull. This field, interacting with a plane wave emitted by the antennas on the sides of the hull, generates force per volume, combining both lift and propulsion. Then I find out that these electrostatic propulsion systems are used in satellites. Then I start to look into electrostatic levitation. What? Then I find out about the electrostatics in our atmosphere, that it has an equipotential increase of 100 volts per meter, which could possibly be the reason for the downward bias of things trying to seek equilibrium on the ground. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I figure out that liquid oxygen is actually magnetic. And I'm like, wait a minute. Hold on. If liquid oxygen is magnetic and frozen oxygen is this beautiful sky blue, then does liquid oxygen somehow interact with this electrostatic orbital electromagnetic field? I don't know. Wait, what? Then I found this thing, a toroidal field made out of copper and stones. All of a sudden, he hangs this golden necklace over it, and it starts orbiting. Oh, have you seen the path of the ISS over the flat Earth? Yeah, that's the path it takes. The International Space Station path over the flat Earth, it's a toroidal field. I don't know. This is why they don't want us to do our own research, because simply just asking a question about this sent me on this whole rabbit trail, finding a lot of other things that may be... Whoa, Viper! I almost got done with the video, but then guess what you did? You screamed at me. What do you want? What? Hold on. What'd you just say to me? Anyway, hey, could this thing possibly be orbiting a different way? Could the firmament be scientifically explained? We must have made a dent with our theory that the ISS is orbiting using electrostatic propulsion, because guess who has an electrostatic levitation laboratory now? NASA, dude, where they're making big balls of steel levitate with electrostatics, and they're talking about their new electric propulsion, and it's no secret now. All of a sudden, NASA's all out in the open with it. I mean, anyone can be honest enough to say that this does not look 250 miles away. And if we look at magnetic field lines from the top through the magnetic field lines on the ferrocell, then we see that we create the exact same pattern that we would see whenever we take a look at the ISS orbital motion over the flat Earth model. We made gigantic headway with this patent showing that triangular spacecraft that uses electrostatics to defy gravity. And that's why it's such a big problem for the theory of relativity. Electrogravitics follow the magnetic field lines, which look exactly like this, and they don't follow the silly curvature of space-time. Come on. So do you think NASA being open and honest now about electric propulsion is their way of being like, oh yeah, we've been doing it all along? Or have we put the pressure on them and now they're like, okay, time to do some damage control?
That the ISS takes. I have no idea what forces could be at play to cause that sort of a spiraling orbit, unless the firmament is literally a giant kid's spirograph set.
You've never seen that pattern. Magnetic field lines, maybe? You ever heard of electrostatic levitation? Just by charging this PVC pipe with some wool, you can get enough electrostatic charge to cause a repulsive effect and cause things to levitate. Look at this. Now imagine instruments with some control. Isn't it funny that the electrostatic force seems to defy gravity, the bending and warping of space-time? It's the one thing that can counteract it. And depending on how things are charged, they can be repulsive or they can be attractive. Here's NASA in a 0G plane doing tests with electrostatic orbital motion, causing two charged items to orbit. Now look at this. Charged bar causing this to do that. Now imagine a controlled environment where there are thrusters and things involved. Familiar, eh? And you know about the electricity in our atmosphere, that there's 100 volts per meter of electrostatic potential that can be harnessed. It's no secret, and they use this electrostatic force in electric propulsion. NASA has an electrostatic levitation laboratory. So don't you think they've figured out this anti-gravity technology using the electrostatics in the atmosphere? Used to, flat earthers were like, oh, satellites don't exist, the ISS doesn't exist. But here's the thing. I believe it is up there because we can see it crossing the moon and the sun. But here's the deal. I don't believe it's 250 miles away and following the bending and warping of space-time, the curvature of space-time. No, I believe that the ISS has so many solar panels because it uses this solar propulsion, harnessing the electrostatics in the atmosphere and having orbital motion following these electromagnetic field lines. Those of you who waited till the end get something special. He's charging this rod with wool. I'm going to tell you something very interesting about wool. You know Deuteronomy 22:11 that says, you shall not wear fabric made of wool and linen blended together. They say it's pagan. Yeah, it's actually witchcraft because linen's frequency is 5,000. Wool is also at 5,000, but when you mix those two together, that cancels each other out to a frequency of 0. We're talking low energy, low vibration frequency. Totally explains why 100% wool t-shirts are a freaking $100. So those Bible verses that you thought were meaningless actually mean something. So as this deception is going on, they're also deceiving you in how important this field of energy is to our bodies. You know, they try to hide the fact that grounding is good for us as they make these shoes with rubber soles. They try to hide the fact that certain diets raise our frequency, vibration, and our energy field. I believe this created realm that we live in has a lot more secrets to uncover than we think.
What we see is this geometry all throughout nature because of this process. That's what this geometry is. And that's where we get the honeycomb, you have the snowflake, you have all these different geometric patterns that are reoccurring. And you may look at some of these and be like, oh, those are different. But they're not. They all fall within the same torus field geometry. So very important to understand that all natural design is governed by simple laws of physics, energy, frequency, and vibration. Nature shows us the unifying expression all around us. The holy grail of physics is a grand unified theory and a theory of everything. If you step outside of just blindly believing what the mainstream has told you about where you live, if you can break out of that typically trauma-based mind control and think for yourself, then you'll see, well, we have a theory of everything sitting right in front of us. The vortex motion is a consequence of nature's vibrational geometry. You see, this is a ferrocell image of a magnetic field. And if you don't know, that is just ferrofluid with a few different types of oil you can use. You press it between two pieces of really flat glass, which is called an optical flat. And you just basically glue it around the outside, run an LED strip of lights around the outside. And as you put that over a magnet, the ferrofluid responds to the magnetic field, and the light actually lights up the fluid based on how it's being distributed, so you get to see the field effectively, what the field is doing. These are pretty incredibly beautiful images, honestly, and you see that there's a vortex in the magnetic field. This geometry being found everywhere, like we just saw right here, okay, really the actual manifestation of even that flower there, it has a vortex in the middle of it. You see the top left picture here, looks very similar, doesn't it? It is the same thing, okay? Everything is vibrational and all things are seeking equilibrium. Any true theory of physics that's going to really progress us is going to be a theory of everything. Everything's going to have to be connected. Well, it is all connected. There's a common factor, vibration. And charge, what people call charge, elementary charge even. So everything's electric and everything is vibratory. And this is where you would get this depiction of where we reside. We have a magnetic field in the earth. We would live on that plane right there. And then basically you would just have the ripples within this geometry going out around us. How does day and night work on the earth if it's flat? Like, okay, there you go. Let's check it out. Oh, look at that. It's almost as if we can just perfectly replicate day and night on a plane Earth. And people are like, oh, well, why wouldn't it light up the whole Earth? Why is it not lighting up the whole Earth there? A local light source wouldn't light up the whole Earth. It's just a ridiculous idea. Day and night works perfect on a plane Earth. What about the summer solstice? Oh, look at that. It matches exactly what the demonstration does. It works perfectly. Look at it. Interesting enough, you see the geometry in both scenarios. Fits right within that geometry we talked about earlier. Yeah, because everything is that geometry. That vibrational resonance creates a torus field. Okay, well, what about when we see the sun set and it should set in a different location? Well, we actually can't see forever. We see in a circle around us. We're not Superman. We don't have x-ray vision. We can't just see forever, right? We have a limit to our view. And what that causes is basically like a dome around us, an azimuthal grid, right? We can't see forever. We can replicate this. You can take a light source and you can put it over top of a dome and you'll see that there's different locations. In fact, you see, if you look closely to the dome, you see there's a light source here. So if this was the actual sun or light source, if you're inside the dome, you're actually going to see this. So as this moves across, you're going to see a different location. It's very easy to replicate. It's crazy that people don't get this. But so as you see here, the actual sun would move around, and then it would cause it to look like it's arcing over top of you, just like we see with crepuscular, anti-crepuscular rays, rainbows, sundogs, etc. Right? It's just we don't see forever. We basically see in a little dome, and that's because our eyes are spherical, and everything is the same geometry. You have torus fields everywhere, elongated sphere of a torus field all over the place, and that's why you see this. The position of the sun and all the stars and the moon are all perfectly explained on a plane Earth, understanding that we have perspective that limits how far we can see. Now here is the sun position data from longitude observations all along one longitude projected onto a plane surface versus an actual pinhole camera long exposure of the sun for a year. When we rendered it through the computer, taking all the data measurements of the Earth on one single longitude, this is what it gave us. That basically this fits right inside the torus field. Again, we're always in the torus field, and it's funny how it perfectly matches the actual pinhole camera long exposure of the sun over the course of a year. So look at that. The year data matches perfectly on a plane Earth again. So here we have a Farrell cell image of a magnetic field. You see the actual geometry, the lines here, and we won't get into the complexities of the magnetic field, but I'll cover magnetism sometime soon. And then you have here, look, this apparent pattern that comes from the solar eclipse. It's exactly the same. Of course it is, because everything's intrinsically electromagnetic. And so this works perfectly on the plane Earth position. Here we have all of the quote-unquote planets and how they move in relation to us observing from the Earth. Oh, look, it matches perfectly with the Farrell cell image. It's a beautiful, perfect, sacred geometry, flower of life, fits within the torus field. And this is exactly what we would expect to see, because that's what everything in nature shows us. If the Earth is in the center and not moving, this is what's going on around us. And this is literally what we see. And of course, what they say is, oh, well, it's just an illusion. And actually, we're flying around in here too. Okay. So do you see that pattern, how it directly matches? This is all the quote unquote planets and stuff moving around the Earth. Here is Mars from a quote unquote geocentric position, right? So with the Earth not moving, this is what you get. Oh, it perfectly matches. And this is actually Kepler's little known diagram here on the right. This is Mars in the Tycho Brahe model. By the study of the orbit of Mars, we must either arrive at the secrets of astronomy or forever remain in ignorance of them. And that's what Kepler said. It's interesting. I mean, look at what it does. It fits right within this torus field geometry, bro. It's actually very beautiful. And here are all of them. You have Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, which are seemingly wandering lights at a lower density layer. But this is the quote-unquote ISS trajectory right here put onto a plane. And it perfectly matches. You have, look, here's another depiction of Venus and Mercury. All of this fitting right within the torus field geometry. This is a Farrell cell image of a magnetic field again. This would be a top-down view. You have the vortex in the middle. Then you have these patterns, this motion coming through. Like basically you have these little ellipses that would fit inside there. And then the plane would be cut right through the middle horizontally, but this is top-down. Again, we have the vortex here. And when we did all these measurements, of course, we used Michelson-Gale-Pearson, used the Sagnac effect. Sagnac said this is the vortex in the ether that we're measuring, and we consistently show this vortex in this preferred direction of light that gets faster and faster the closer you get to the sky, which completely debunks relativity and supposedly the constant speed of light and all of that. And we've shown that there is, in fact, a vortex and that you can measure it. The light goes faster in the same direction that the stuff in the sky moves. So if you jump in a river and you swim downstream, you go much faster, right? Because you're going with the stream, it's helping you. As opposed to trying to swim across it, you're going to go slower, right? Because you're going against the drift. And this is what we see in very precise measurements replicated hundreds of thousands of times. And so let's take the magnetic flux data, put it on a plane, you see this vortex is clear as day. And just like we see in the depiction, the vortex is here, and this all fits within this geometry. Here's the side view. This white line would be what's called a block domain wall, or an inertial plane, meaning it's unchanging. It's just a plane through the magnetic field, and all these magnetic fields have it. It's called a block domain wall. Well, you look to the top down with the vortex, all the patterns. So this would be us looking down from above, quote unquote, space. This is where all these planets are moving within this, and it's all centered around the vortex, and this would be the side view of the Earth, and we just observed the top half of it. We took the magnetic flux data, put it on a plane, and look at it. It matches perfectly. It's very obvious to anyone with eyes to see that this geometry is matching all the way across it. All the evidence is showing us exactly what the Earth is. You have to believe everything's an illusion, but we just don't have any evidence, right? You have to just throw common sense out the window, throw pattern recognition out the window, and you have to deny the obvious fact that all of these patterns of what we see in the sky match this magnetic field Farrell cell image, and so does the magnetic field data of the Earth, all vortexing around the center point, and we would observe the top half, right? And so the quote-unquote North Pole would be up in the sky.
With all of the evidence that we've observed today, with the mountains of evidence of this holographic technology and all of the curious timelines of how everything's lined up with Project Bluebeam and all this other deception going on with NASA and SpaceX, and then we discover the technology that could exist with the electromagnetic fields and the electromagnetic propulsion. There's a lot of capabilities of making this alleged ISS structure orbit above us, and it doesn't necessarily have to be within a globe model. This is something that would be fully capable of working on a flat model. However, I don't believe that it's a huge, massive spacecraft structure that's flying at 17,000 miles per hour, as that would just defy the physics of our reality. It would just be completely shredded apart if that was the case. But obviously, we know that there's other options that are much more plausible and viable for what we're actually observing. So it makes much more sense that this is not actually a spacecraft floating above us, but something else that we have yet to get all the answers for. But until then, the evidence leans much more to the fact that the ISS on its face and what we're told is next to impossible.